watching Amazing Lucas's video because he is one of the only people on YouTube that I've seen who actually hate the King Kong versus Godzilla movie. And I was laughing the entire time. I mean, part of the reason I was laughing is because you can feel the saltiness coming through the video, but he did make some really good points. And we all know this, but when someone actually verbalizes it, it's even more funny. And I think the way that he does it, like, you should go watch his video because I want to break down what he says and add some commentary to it, because his reactions are just, it feels like an addition to the movie. Oh my god, this guy's great. I'm personally Team Godzilla, contrary to what you all think, but I do love Kong. It's like one of those situations where, you know, you love both parents, but if you had to choose between living with mom and dad if they split up, you'd choose dad. Not because you don't love your mom. You guys get where I'm coming from. I hope my mother isn't watching this. I love you, mom. But, you know, I love dad more. Okay, so anyway, let's hear a few of his points.
This movie should be called Godzilla because there was no verses. This is by far the worst movie of 2021, okay? When I mean the worst movie, I mean the worst movie. And I'm using the term movie very loosely.
Damn, the salt. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. It's not funny, but it's it's his whole delivery when he's talking about it. Okay, I mean, I don't think that's actually fair to make that assessment. Wait a minute, you got some interesting as hell ears. What are you, Navi? That's really freaking cool, dude. Never seen ears like that. Anyway, he goes on to explaining why the movie should have been called Godzilla, because Godzilla basically wins. And I see where he's coming from. I see where people from Team Kong are coming from, because if you look at the older movie, there was more of an even keel. Maybe they were doing a little bit of fan service because Kong swam away in the old movie, and it was decided that he was the winner because he swam away and Godzilla just mysteriously disappeared while he was in the water. So this time Godzilla wins. But I think that people have an issue with the way Kong was treated in the movie, and I'm not gonna sit here and just be like, well, too bad he went up against a dragon, which is true. He did go up against nuclear breathing creature that can regenerate, and, like, you know, I mean, it is what it is. But I do understand that in a versus movie, they started out making Kong look weak because he had to be protected from Godzilla. Now keep in mind, this was a titan that has fought other titans on his island for a very long time. Granted, Godzilla has been fighting a lot of other alien creatures that are much bigger, but he also was very nerfed, it seems, in the 2014 movie, where he seems to have been getting his ass handed to him by those two Mutos. And even just by one, just fighting the male Muto alone, he was having a lot of trouble with him. Granted, this is a creature that can fly, so it's out of Godzilla's element, but this Godzilla is very different than this Godzilla. Every time I see that scene, god damn. You know, it's interesting. Those are some deep claw marks, and he has the claw marks from the skull crawler from that movie he was in, his movie. I'd be very surprised if those claw marks just magically disappear, having been new claw marks, and there's no scars of them whatsoever. I didn't notice in the ending scene when he was swinging around. Let's go look. Uh-oh, where are those scars? You still see the one on his right breast, but all the others that Godzilla made just recently just magically disappeared. Where did they go? You can see that Godzilla was a little bit more bummed up in the Godzilla vs. Kong movie, and even the Godzilla King of the Monsters movie, because those were alpha titans he was dealing with. And this Godzilla is also a bit stronger and more active than the one in 2014. So there's that. I don't know. Movie plot.
All right, too damn high. This man, throughout the entire film, I kid you not, no spoilers, throughout the entire film, does not win one fight by himself. Scratch that. There is one fight, and you want to know how we know we're supposed to know that Kong won? It's because when the actors is like, oh, Kong definitely won that round. It's just like, if you have to tell me Kong won, then that's a problem.
I think they we're doing it for the fans of Kong, just letting them know, just in case you missed it, that counts as a win. Honestly, I see where he's coming from, because if I had not heard them say that, I would not have seen it that way. I would have been like, oh, Godzilla is momentarily down. That will give Kong some breathing room. That's how I interpreted it. But when they said, oh, he wins round 2, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this like this? Okay, I guess. Yeah, you're right. Kong won that round. It's kind of like kicking sand in a fire-breathing dragon's eyes. And they're like momentarily disabled because they're trying to get the sand out their eye, where you go and try to get yourself together. I am so sorry. Like, I'm not trying to make a fun of Kong fans, because I know I made that other video about that troll that was, well, I can't call him a troll because he was probably being serious. But there are some people who are really, I don't want to say salty, they were really tasty over this entire fight because Kong lost. And realistically, that might have happened in real life, but I think the issue here, which is what Amazing Lucas is saying, is that he didn't put up enough of a fight. Like, the odds were stacked against him, and I can understand where he's coming from. If this is a fantasy movie and they're gonna make it for the sake of putting on a versus movie, then they should make things somewhat even. I honestly think Kong put up one hell of a fight, but there's another video that I have coming up after this that's going to explain why Kong lost that, and why Team Kong people shouldn't feel too bad, and actually should feel pretty good considering how Kong performed in Godzilla vs. Kong. I know it sounds horrible, and it's probably gonna make people even more mad. And I think this is where Legendary kind of messed up, and I understand why they probably did this, because they don't know if they were going to get the rights back to Godzilla, so they're like, let's quickly just make this, just to usher Kong in, so that we can have other movies for him. I'm guessing that's how it works, and because of the whole rights and licensing situation, I think that's why they went ahead and did this, but I'll explain more of that in the video that's coming up.
That's a problem. The movie is trash. The level of disrespect, he is on his own planet. I'm sorry I have to tell you this, he's on his own planet, and he can't win a fight where his people were supposed to be ruling this planet. This movie is just so bad.
You make a very good point there. And oh my god, I don't want to spoil the next video I'm going to do, but some people might not see this anyway. You have a point, because his people, his species, were actually the protectors. So if he comes from what essentially is a line of warriors, and he's fought a lot of creatures, why was this so difficult for him? I think there's an answer for that. First of all, Kong is an orphan. If he had grown up around the community and people to adequately train him, remember, these Kong species didn't become what they were overnight. This was centuries, probably centuries upon centuries of his members of his species being trained in battle. Like, you don't just wake up one day and you're a warrior, especially if you have no one mentoring you. So considering how well Kong was able to handle himself in this fight, he was pretty badass, because he was an orphan who grew up by himself with no social reinforcements, with no teaching, with no training. All he had was a little bit of experience on that one little island, and he was able to hold his own against Godzilla for the most part initially. Also, keep in mind that even though Kong is an adult, he's still considered young. I think his parents had an edge in a fight where he was being born because they grew up in a community of warriors. Kong did not have that community. He didn't have that structure. And honestly, if there's already an axe made down there in the temple in the Hollow Earth that is made out of the plate of one of Godzilla's species, don't you think that the rest of his family had an arsenal of other weapons somewhere in some vault that he probably doesn't even know about? Possibly some super juice that will give him electric powers or an advantage against creatures like Godzilla. So saying that Kong was a bit unprepared for this movie, a movie that was being hyped up for so long against Godzilla, is a bit of an understatement. It's like putting Miles Morales up against Peter Parker. It's like putting the young Batman up against Superman. Or even worse, it's like putting Black Widow up against Superman. What are you doing?
So bad. Every single round, he needs help from the humans.
To be fair, Godzilla did too. I mean, not when he was kicking Kong's ass, but there were times when Godzilla needed help from the humans as well, or things would have been really bad for him, or the humans themselves almost killed Godzilla. Oh my god. It's hilarious, but it's true, and I do have to give him, even though I am Team Godzilla, I do have to admit that there are flaws about the movie. I think it was an awesome movie. I loved the movie. And if Kong had won, because I went in not knowing who would win, and I'm like, part of me was thinking, man, if they make Kong win over Godzilla, that's definitely gonna be fan service. But if Kong had won, I would have been like, okay, he deserves respect now. Godzilla's gonna respect him, and they're gonna end up friends, and Godzilla's gonna fight his ass off, and he's gonna be like, all right, I see you, Kong.
They have this man, King Kong, and essentially a witness protection program.
It's so true, though. It really is. It's true. It's true. For people who know King Kong and who he is, he's basically his own version of Godzilla, but without the breath. And the fact that they wrote the story like that is really disrespectful to Kong. I can see that. I totally understand that. They make no bones about frequently mentioning in the movie, can the monkey handle us? Well, Godzilla's gonna come for him. Well, what about Kong? We gotta keep him safe. And I think this was probably the humans trying to feel bigger than what they were, but they made it seem as though Kong couldn't handle himself at all. And I could have done without that part of the dialogue. Those parts were really cheesy for me, like, can the monkey handle this? Like, okay, we get it. You don't believe in Kong. I get, like, to them, he just may be a supersized human being, but if they know Kong's history, they'll know that he went up against some really gnarly creatures. Maybe not Godzilla. I can totally understand that, and I can understand why they would feel that. It just felt like it was a little bit ham-fisted when they kept saying it over and over again. The world needs Kong. Can he handle this? Why did you use him then?
In a witness protection program, okay? King freaking Kong, okay? Because they're so scared that Godzilla is gonna kill him. They're like, hey, Godzilla's on the hunt for him. He's on the hunt for him. And
it's so freaking funny, like his reactions and his commentary. You can tell he's so pissed. There's like 0 fucks left to give. It's so hilarious. Yo. I can feel the anger coming from off the screen. Is this what you guys feel like when I'm mad? Because some people are like, oh my god, you're funny when you're mad. I'm like, how am I funny? Like, the angrier I get is the more funny it is to people. And I figured, okay, maybe it's just drama. People like drama. But I think I kind of understand where you're coming from now, because the madder he gets is the funnier it is. I'm so sorry. No disrespect to Lucas, but damn, it's freaking cracking me up.
And I'm gonna spoil a little bit, just a little bit, but it's in the trailer. It's in the trailer. You know the trailer where they're in the water? This is after they say, hey, Godzilla's on the hunt for Kong. If he senses him, he's gonna come in and attack. Guess how they choose to transport King Kong? Because the whole story of this is like, hey, the whole purpose of this film is to get King Kong away from Godzilla.
Oh my god. You know when you watch a movie, you know the movie shit. You know it's a very cheesy movie. I'm not gonna be here and be like, no, Godzilla vs. Kong was the best movie ever. It was a great kaiju movie. But standalone, if someone doesn't like kaiju and they look at this movie from just like a general perspective, they're gonna be like, what the hell? What's the dialogue? What are the acting? What in the hell? I get it. I am very aware of that. It's the same reason why people like stuff like Sharknado. You know it's ridiculous and some of it doesn't make sense. Like the transporter. A lot of those action scenes don't make freaking sense. But it's an action movie, so it's forgivable. But in a movie like Godzilla vs. Kong, where you have a huge fandom on both sides, and I'm sorry, I'm laughing so much. And one of them loses so badly. It's like I can understand why the other team is like, really, bro? Like, this would have been a better play on Godzilla vs. Kong. I mean, Godzilla and Kong are not Batman, but everyone relates them to Batman because Mothra, Martha, that whole thing, everyone, that was just low-hanging fruit. But consider, just for a second, consider the Batman versus Superman animes, or the animated versions or comic versions of Batman. I don't like how they did him in DC, the cinematic universe, because it just feels like, even though I grew up with Batman and I'm like, I didn't read the comics, but I watched some of the animated stuff, and Batman was always badass. I had action figures of him as a little girl, and he was memorable enough for me to want to play with him. That sounds wrong, you know what I mean. But just, this is an example of one of the fights. Superman versus Batman and Green Lantern. That fight stuck out out to me. And my partner actually showed me this one, and I was like, God damn. Even he was like, that is not Batman. My partner has a very interesting dog in this fight when it comes to Batman and Superman because he's an INTJ personality, and Batman is considered an INTJ personality as well. Batman is the kind of person that is always prepared for everything. He has contingency plans. He knows that he's only human. And if he works in a world full of aliens and superpowered beings, he has to make sure he has a way to neutralize every single one of them in case they're compromised. So seeing how he was treated in the DCEU was just like really insulting to even my partner, because he's like, what the hell? He would not even have been in that situation unless he had some way to back out of it or to defeat the person in that situation. It would be very hard to defeat Batman just because of his preparedness.
So, what can you do? I can still see you.
That part was hilarious. Yo, my ass would have been on the inside out, like, if he said that to me. The way he says it, he's just like, what are you doing? I have X-ray vision, bitch. Oh my god. But just check out some of the moves that Batman does against Superman. Now, keep in mind, Superman is the most powerful being.
Bruise, but you don't kill, do you? Clark. You've made your point. Bruce Wayne. Who the hell is Bruce Wayne?
In that segment, even though Batman wasn't physically matched with Superman, he was prepared enough to know that Superman wouldn't kill him, and basically, well, Top 10 Nerd says it best.
The thing that brings the fight to the end is right before Superman is about to punch the Dark Knight into another dimension, Batman calls out Superman by his real name, Clark Kent, stopping him dead in his tracks. This is what makes Batman so incredible. In this rendition of the DC universe, he was the first person in the world to figure out who Superman was, and through his powerful intellect, he took complete control of the situation.
So whenever you have a character that is really good physically, you need the villain or the opponent to either be evenly matched physically or to have a higher advantage when it comes to wits or mental prowess. Similar to the situation with Mr. Glass in the Unbreakable trilogy. For maximum power, there needs to be maximum intelligence.
The whole purpose of this film is to get King Kong away from Godzilla. The whole purpose is that Kong is apparently a domestic, survivor, abuse survivor, right? And they're trying to get Kong away from Godzilla. That's the whole purpose. And their idea to get Kong away from a creature that can swim was to go via the ocean.
Oh my god. Touche. It seems to be a trip of these movies or these monster movies to make the worst decisions possible and just run with them. A lot of people were laughing or upset or shaking their heads when they realized that Monarch had the ability or option, or even the Apex people, to transport King Kong via flight, and didn't choose that until after so many people died and Kong himself almost died. I will admit that was a very stupid decision, and I know that this is a trope of monster movies, but it would be refreshing once in a while for things to actually make sense, sort of. Even if you consider there was a gas issue or fuel, you could have still used the ships or checkpoints. I mean, let's consider this is a movie where they figured out how to make anti-gravity vehicles so they could travel into the hollow earth at 1.8 million miles per hour and still survive. Pretty sure they could have also made something to airlift Kong. They could have made an anti-gravity vehicle strong enough to lift Kong, or several of them. It is kind of cheesy. So I can understand why Kong fans are mad, because it seems as though they literally just put him in danger for the sake of it, or to make it convenient so that people can see how deadly Godzilla is in the water.
And then later they think, you know what we should do? We should probably fly him with a net. This movie is disgraceful. It's freaking disgraceful. Oh, Mechagodzilla? Trash. Trash. Trash.
Now, there are a lot of people who have reasons for why they hate Mechagodzilla, but he does make a good point, and I remember thinking about that, but I was like, maybe it's because it's a machine, and I was trying to make sense of it, but I was like, you know what, it was so badass, I don't care. I don't really care at this moment because, you know, it was kind of cool watching them get together. But then when someone points it out, like I said, it's kind of like that situation where I tell everyone that I love Big Bang Theory and it's so funny, and then like my partner told me, because he was the one that did that, he's like, oh, you think that show's so funny, huh? That show's trash. Watch it without the laugh track and tell me if it's still funny.
Hey, Howard, did you see that?
I'm over here, Sheldon.
That was a close one. I almost went home with that guy.
You doing okay?
It was special about it would get ruined.
Are you done?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That both made sense and wasn't offensive.
And to make things worse, Stewart hired some woman.
There we go.
I'm not annoyed that she's a woman. I'm annoyed, and she's a woman.
No, I get that. I'm annoyed and I'm a woman.
But then Lucas makes this other hilarious point, and it's so hard to not laugh. He needs to do more movie reviews like this, because he's definitely cut out for it. So here he says this.
Follow me, right? Follow me, okay? If A beats B, and then C beats A, how the flying hell does B then beat C? Not to spoil anything, does that make sense to anyone? Does that make sense to anyone?
Okay. So for those of you who are kind of slow or you weren't really paying attention, he's saying that if more often than not, because 90% of the time Godzilla did win against Kong. If Godzilla beat Kong, but Mechagodzilla beat Godzilla, how is it that Kong was able to beat Mechagodzilla? So I'm like, okay, I can see why there'd be a problem, but I was talking with it over with my partner, because as I was making this video, he also kind of helped and gives me some input, and I asked him about that, and I said, aside from the teaming up thing, Kong handed Mechagodzilla's ass to him. So my partner had a very interesting observation. He said that it seems as though Mechagodzilla was designed after Godzilla, to understand how to beat Godzilla. And I rebutted and said, well, technically this kaiju, yes, was modeled after Godzilla, but also was put in place to defeat other kaiju. The thing is that we have to also remember that Ghidorah was the one who was manning the Mechagodzilla. So what my partner suggested is that Mechagodzilla knows all of Godzilla's moves. Godzilla had Kong screw him up for a while, and then he was like, okay, now I'm gonna beat you up. Because Godzilla is kind of similar to Batman in that he studies the moves of his opponents. He gets beat up for a while to understand what their moves are, what they do before he can get the edge upon them. Even if he loses the fight and he survives, he'll go away and come back stronger, knowing how to defeat his opponent. So that's why he also was able to deal with Kong so quickly at the end. He reserved all of that for the end. With Mechagodzilla is already designed to know how Godzilla fights, not just because it was designed after Godzilla, but also because Ghidorah is the one manning it, and Ghidorah has already fought Godzilla. It knows how to utilize its own powers to defeat Godzilla, how to defeat him, but it had no idea what to do with Kong. It's never met Kong before. Ghidorah, I don't believe, has ever met Kong before. So when you have another creature that's not like the other kaiju, doesn't fight like the other kaiju, who's jumping and all over the place on your back and all that stuff, Mechagodzilla didn't have time to properly assess the situation or his opponent to even do anything about it. Not only is Godzilla helping, but Mechagodzilla just wasn't prepared for that. It was prepared for Godzilla, but not prepared for Kong, getting help from Godzilla as well. So I think that is how B was able to beat C. Remember, B was also getting help from A initially to beat C as well. A was also very tired and getting its ass beat up, so what was fighting it near the end was after the fight it had with Kong and after it's gotten roughed up by Mechagodzilla for a while. So A wasn't really fighting, like quarter of an A or half an A was fighting, and B had just gotten resuscitated and was fighting at full capacity. So I think that's how that happened, to answer that question.
If I beat up someone, right, I beat that person up, and then someone beats me up, how on earth would the person who lost to me be able to be the victor of the person who beat me?
Well, if the person initially got help from you and has the fight style to deal with that bigger guy, he would. Here's a better analogy. Let's say that Wonder Woman from the DCEU beat up Batman. Well, just a little, because he'd be dead if she did. Let's You know, so I talk about how weak DCEU Batman is because the real Batman would not be that unprepared. So let's say Wonder Woman disabled Batman. As far as we know from the movies, the modern cinematic universe, there was no contingency plan against Wonder Woman. Then Wonder Woman goes up against Superman and loses really, really badly. Like, there isn't even any competition. Even though she's as strong as Superman, well, not as strong, but very, very strong, comparable to Superman, he is leagues ahead of her. If he's really trying to kill her, he would have killed her very easily. But then Batman goes up against Superman and wins. Okay, first of all, okay, you get where I'm coming from, right? Like, not this Batman. But in that scenario, if Batman did win, you can see that happening, right? How? I know it's difficult. Just pretend. It's because even though physically Batman would not be able to take on Superman, he has the resources or tools to at least gain an advantage. I'm assuming that because Superman is the most powerful person, the very nerf version of Batman we see in the DCEU who has a bunch of kryptonite. From what I can tell, Wonder Woman isn't affected by kryptonite. I don't even know what her weakness is except for emotions. I mean, if Wonder Woman wanted to slap Batman's head off, there is little that he could do. But against Superman, that wonderful kryptonite arrow or bullet, that would make quick work of Superman, even though Batman is physically much weaker than Superman. Well, this is the case with Kong. Because if Godzilla had not been there to enchant the axe, Kong would have eventually died. If Godzilla had not been initially helping Kong, Mechagodzilla would have killed Kong a long time ago. I know it feels salty and it's hard to accept it, but it is what it is. In that specific situation, it can definitely happen. Keep in mind, it doesn't even look like Godzilla got to really use his atomic breath power against Mechagodzilla because Mechagodzilla kept getting the drop on him. So, but you know what? For Kong fans, I'm going to be making a video because, I mean, can't please everyone, but there is probably a reason why the fight was so, what's the word?
Oh, the axe? Useless. Useless. Okay, I won't go. You know what? It's selectively useful, okay? When the plot calls for the axe to be useful, it's useful. When it doesn't need it to be useful, it's not useful. This movie is trash, okay? This is disrespect to King Kong, all right? How they portrayed him in this movie, I would say this is possibly a hate crime.
Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. I'm not laughing at him. It's just the whole thing is hilarious, but I see where he's coming from. It's not, part of the reason I'm laughing is because I totally see where he's coming from. Look, you all know I'm not one to talk. I love making fun of movies because there are some really convenient plot situations or things that are just bad writing. And it's fun to make fun of them. Even the ones that do it on purpose, it is fun to make fun of them because your head hurts and it makes you angry. So I'm so understanding of and sympathetic of what he's going through right now because I totally get it. And when someone points it out, like you already know it, but when someone points it out, it just makes it that much more funny. And he's getting slammed on this video for that, but this is his opinion, you know, and even if he's a Kong fan, he's obviously Team Kong. You cannot lie that there are some critical issues with the movie. I think us Godzilla fans are more like, well, Godzilla won, what'd you expect was gonna happen? But I think ideally it would have been more fair if, like, in the Hong Kong scene, they made it so that when Kong realized his weapon was the way it was, it could be used. Because ideally, that weapon was used by his ancestors to kill members of Godzilla's species. It's very clear. And the thing is, if he had used it correctly or knew how to use it, he would have killed Godzilla. I mean, didn't they take that axe out of another Godzilla's skull? So I think it just boils down to inexperience, to be honest. Godzilla didn't give him a chance to really use it. And when he had the chance to really use it, he didn't put the axe in Godzilla's head. He put the stick end just for nostalgia purposes. So I do see the issues with the movie, and I also understand his perspective. What do you guys think? In an ideal movie with a Godzilla versus Kong mashup, I think, personally, it would be great great if Kong had his own movies on the side where he was fighting other alien and kaiju entities, and that was built up with that franchise, and then we had Godzilla doing the same thing, and then those two come together. Because they're already two established characters, but in the Legendary Universe, Kong is not really that established. He beat the gigantic monitor lizard serpent thing that, honestly, Godzilla would have just breathed on and it would have died. So that's not really fair. We've not seen enough of Kong's adventures, and don't be like, oh, well, the novelization. Most people don't do that. It's not the same platform, so it doesn't count. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.